Food. I think we all love food, right? It's kind of necessary for nutrition. A lot of us love having food of all different sorts. We're looking at foods that are banned, though. Well, specifically in this title in Europe, but I'm going to go for probably banned in multiple places. But not the U.S., not the good old USA. Aren't we always the outlier, right? Well, I tend to think our cuisine here is very diverse, and I think it's very, very tasty in a lot of ways. Yes, there's some food that I cannot stand here. I think that's normal. Not everyone likes everything. But there's some really, really good food here. I will admit, through Mail Time on my channel, if you haven't seen that, you got to check it out. I have gotten snacks from around the world, but mostly Australia and New Zealand. And let me tell you, there are snacks when it comes to maybe like chips, candy bars, different things like this, biscuits as opposed to our cookies. They're really good, I got to admit. They're really, really good. This from a channel called Top Tens. I can see our boy Salmon here. He is like all over YouTube. Like, geez, doesn't he do everything? It's crazy. Here we go. Enough babbing. Here we go.
Started something you might know that I have another channel called Mega Projects, which is all about mega projects. If you don't subscribe to that, please do. Well, by popular demand, I wanted to cover some things on that channel that weren't quite mega enough for it. So the European Union is as suspicious as ever when it comes to foodstuffs containing chemicals, unnatural dyes, and meat treated with synthetic growth hormones. Since 1981, the EU has had stringent rules for the importation of food to its markets, and those rules have only gotten stricter with time. In 1989, it banned as many as 6 growth hormones, launching a trade dispute which has lasted 30 years and counting. In 2003, it permanently banned 1 synthetic growth hormone while provisionally banning 5 others, and a whole host of dyes, chemicals, and preservatives are persona non grata in the EU as well. From hard-shelled candy delights, milk, dyed salmon, and beef and pork treated with all kinds of hormones, here are 10 foods banned in parts of the European Union that are not banned in the United States.
Alrighty, here we go.
Number 10, Skittles. While not banned in the entire EU, Skittles are banned in Sweden and Norway for containing yellow dye number 5 and 6. In most parts of the EU, all that's required of the Wrigley Company, a division of Mars Inc., is to include a disclaimer suggesting that the candy could cause adverse health effects and hyperactivity. Still, it's thought that these dyes can cause allergic reactions in some people, and FDA tests have shown that red dye 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6 all contain cancer-causing agents like benzodiazepine and 4-aminobiphenol. And the levels released in the body could be much higher than the FDA is reporting, thanks to the fact that routine tests tend to find less of these cancer-causing carcinogens than when they actually pass through the colon. Still, we've never heard of anyone in the US being...
So yeah, I mean, you're going to have tests that show maybe not even the whole story sometimes, of course. And then also, everything's in moderation, right? I'm not defending Skittles saying like, oh, they're healthy. They're not. They're not. No one's saying that. But you got to watch stuff like this. I agree, actually, if something is shown repeatedly to be really bad, like Red 40 say, you know, it kind of should be phased out pretty quick, right? But unfortunately, that's not the case here in the U.S., but you got to take things in moderation. People should be made aware of this. Of course, it's your body, it's your health, it's kind of everything, right? And if you want to have Skittles once in a blue moon, really rare, I think you'll be fine. But this stuff can add up over time, right? So just don't have them every day, of course, because then, yeah, you could have some issues. But it's not like you'll eat, 1 bag of Skittles and then you'll get cancer tomorrow. It's not that bad, right? But this is something seriously to consider, and it does make you wonder why the U.S. takes such a different approach, right?
Hospitalized after eating Skittles, but maybe that's just what they want you to think. Number 9, RBGH or RBST milk. The main reason cited by the European Union for banning both recombinant bovine growth hormone and its synthetic counterpart, recombinant bovine somatotropin, RBST, officially is due to animal cruelty concerns, but there may be other adverse health effects linked to the use of these hormones. Both RBGH and RBST have been tenuously linked to the development of certain cancers. In addition to that, the FDA found that further study would have to be conducted to determine the impact these hormones would have on the liver and other organs. But in addition to the potential adverse health effects of RBGH in humans, cattle treated with the growth hormone are more likely to come down with a nasty case of mastitis, inflammatory reaction in the udder tissue caused by infection from microorganisms. As a result of this disease, cattle in the US are treated with antibiotics, eliminating mastitis infections, but potentially causing other problems further further down the line.
Jeez.
Although the World Health Organization is primarily concerned about the over-reliance and overuse of antibiotics in humans, claiming that this could lead to the evolution of a superbug, 90% of antibiotics consumed aren't taken by humans. They're fed to otherwise healthy animals. And experts warn...
Yeah, and the problem with that, that is flawed, heavily flawed, right? Because, you have a problem and then like, oh, well, we're just going to take this, right? But then this has a side effect. So we're going to take this to counteract this, So like you have this chain of different antibiotics, different medicines, different things going on to counteract each other. And it becomes this crazy mess, right? Whereas... why not keep it like just natural, right? So yeah, this one's tricky because they're taking antibiotics through the roof, right? And then eventually they're going to develop a resistance to that. And this could, it could be bad.
This could be bad down the road. Livestock essentially becoming superbug factories. As the bacteria they harbor become more and more resistant to antibiotics, it's only a matter of time before these traits get passed on to bacteria that are harmful to humans. Number 8, papaya, corn, and soy. The genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, used in vegetables and fruit in the US have allegedly been linked to some nasty health problems. However, whether this is actually the case, we just don't know. While it is true that the US treats its produce and fruit with GMOs to make them more resistant to different diseases, and this can be largely beneficial, more research does need to be conducted in order to determine which of these is harmful to humans. Unlike the US and the FDA, the EU takes a far more cautious approach when it comes to approving GMOs, meaning that they must pass rigorous tests and environmental monitoring before they are deemed safe for consumption by citizens in their countries. However, even their system is not perfect. Recently, a batch of GMO-treated papaya began circulating through EU-controlled markets. The culprits appear to be farmers in Thailand who mass-produced GMO-treated crops. Number 7. Breads containing azodicarbonamide. Azodicarbonamide, ADA for short, is a chemical used to bleach breads in order to increase their shelf life. Recently, companies like Subway, McDonald's, and other fast food restaurants have come under fire for using this chemical. ADA is also the chemical that allows bubbles to form inside foams and plastics like vinyl. The EU banned ADA because of its potential harmful effects on human health. Both potassium bromate's a chemical used in bread that helps it rise in the oven, and...
Now this one pisses me off. Yeah, this one seems careless. Like, really careless. The whole shelf life... Like, dude, if you buy bread, you just gotta use it, and otherwise you lose it, right? Like, this whole crazy obsession with trying to get the maximum shelf life out of products seems to be here in the U.S. It is a little bit annoying because a lot of times it's stuff that's really bad that helps it get shelf life. What's the point of that, right? I mean, you might as well just have it natural and let it grow mold and eat it then. I mean, literally don't do that. But I'm saying... they're both bad. It's just pumping up full of chemicals. That's not good, man.
ADA have been linked to kidney and thyroid cancers in rats. So if China, Brazil, and the European Union have all banned the use of this chemical in their breads, well, why haven't the US? The fact of the matter is that the FDA just doesn't think it's dangerous. After multiple studies, it's ruled that it's not harmful in humans. The question you have to ask yourself is, well, which research do you trust more? And why? Number 6, chlorine-washed chicken.
That's a tough one.
Chlorine plays many roles in the industrialized world. It's a powerful tool for cleaning water supplies which otherwise might become contaminated and lead to the development of cholera when ingested, a disease which is extremely fatal if left untreated. But it's also used to clean other things, like chicken. Chlorine-washed chicken means just that. Chicken that's been washed with chlorinated water.
I didn't know that.
According to most websites devoted to chicken and all things related to chicken, it's the internet, of course these websites exist, chlorine washing is a food safety practice which helps keep harmful bacteria from growing on poultry. But while the EU doesn't think that washing your poultry in chlorinated water will lead to adverse health effects, they do think it's a method of covering up poor hygiene practices. This understandably has made US exporters incredibly angry, as it's a decision not based in scientific evidence, but rather on paranoia. Number 5, instant mashed potatoes. While the FDA will argue otherwise, the preservatives butylated hydroxyanazole, BHA, and butylated hydroxytoluene found in instant mashed potatoes, and pretty much every single packaged food you buy in the US, have been known to cause some cancers in rats. They're also known to impair blood clotting when consumed.
Yeah, luckily I grew out of those. I had maybe like a year and a half period where I really did like these Idahoan cheese instant mashed potatoes. So I assume definitely fall in this group. And yeah, I'm glad I stopped eating those. I'm sure they're not the healthiest, right? They're kind of bizarre, actually, if you think about it. Hold on. Sorry, there was a runaway dog. I could see through the window in our yard. Thought I was gonna go help out, but they got it. Anyway, back on track. Yes, where was I? The potatoes. I stopped eating them. Just grew out of them. I'm glad I did. I'm sure they're not the healthiest.
In high quantities, among other symptoms like hyperactivity. BHA and BHT are used primarily to prevent foods from excreting oils. This prevents them from going rancid and extends their shelf life. And you can probably guess what the European Union did about this. If you guessed that they outright banned them, then congratulations, you are correct. The strange thing about the situation is that the FDA admits that BHA and BHT are probably a bit carcinogenic in nature. The FDA certified these food additives as GRAs, generally recognized as safe, but this just means...
Yeah, that's classic FDA. Classic FDA. Yeah, we've tested these, and they might be a little dangerous. They might even be a carcinogen. But you know what? They're not super dangerous, so you're good.
That they're only regarded as safe up until a certain amount is consumed and never underwent pre-market review. Number 4, Mountain Dew. You might be surprised to learn that your favorite lemon lime soda may contain
I actually don't drink Mountain Dew barely at all. I actually just had one, coincidentally, like 2 days ago, and it was the first time I've had one since I think the winter time. So it's been like 6 months since I had one of these.
Chemical typically used in a flame retardant, and this is an ingredient that has been banned in over 100 countries.
Ooh,
the FDA tested the
ouch.
ingredients in Mountain Dew and found that they lacked enough conclusive data on one of its main ingredients, brominated vegetable oil, to decide whether or not it was safe to consume, although it's still labeled as GRAS. Of course, across the pond, it's a different story. Because it competes with iodine for receptor sites in the body, high levels of brominated vegetable oil in humans can lead to thyroid problems, autoimmune diseases, and potentially cancer. In fact, bromine is considered a toxin. Although brominated vegetable oil is still legal in the United States, Pepsi and Coke decided to remove the ingredient from their soft drinks after public backlash. Number 3, farmed salmon.
That's good.
Eating salmon has all kinds of health benefits, but people consuming anything other than freshwater or organic salmon might be consuming a harmful carcinogen.
Luckily, I don't eat fish anymore. I used to eat tilapia sometimes, but I really just never been a seafood person, never been a fish person, so this doesn't apply to me.
The European Union has outright banned farm-raised salmon for good reason. So what exactly separates farmed salmon from freshwater salmon? Well, that's the fact that salmon that are raised on farms are typically fed an unnatural diet of grain, antibiotics, and other drugs that leave their meat an unhealthy-looking grey. Propagators of farm-raised salmon use a chemical known as astaxanthin to dye the unhealthy grey away. You're probably guessing astaxanthin has been banned in the EU due to health concerns. And you'd be right. What's more is that freshwater salmon growing up on natural food sources retains a vibrant pink quality. Number 2, US pork. Pigs in the United States are typically given food laced with ractopamine, a growth promotion drug which helps animals remain lean. The drug basically mimics the effects of stress hormones, allowing for the production of more meat while keeping feed consumption relatively low. So what might be the problem with this? Well, the company that produces the drug, Elanco, did their own testing on the drug, and this might be a decent indicator that some corners might have been cut. Shortly after the FDA approved the drug for use in American pork products, farmers began reporting that more and more pigs became non-ambulatory, which is a fancy way of saying that they can't stand or walk. These pigs tend to get treated very poorly in US slaughterhouses, getting trampled and dragged by workers and electrically shocked by cattle prods in a cruel effort to get them moving again. More than 218,000 pigs are recorded as having this condition. The FDA accused Elanco of withholding information. But despite this news, the drug is still allowed in the US. All that's changed is a big old disclaimer listing the drug's side effects. On this one, we can't really blame the EU for banning it. Sometimes being cautious pays off. Number 1, US beef. Much like the EU's reasoning on banning US-sourced milk, meat sourced from cattle raised on growth hormones cannot be imported to the European Union. Believe it or not, this decision has resulted in a long-standing trade dispute between the US and the EU, lasting 30 years and counting. Unlike milk, however, the ban on US beef extends to 6 different growth hormones, with estradiol being permanently banned and 5 others provisionally banned. This has resulted in US retaliation in the form of tariffs on selected food imports from the EU, an action that the EU has heavily criticized. Not all US beef is banned in the EU, though. Just recently, a deal was reached to allow a certain market share for companies looking to export organic beef, but the tariffs do remain. The US claims that the EU's decision is not based on scientific evidence, and that they're not treating farms that use synthetic growth hormones fairly. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to
Okay, well, there you go. That's bizarre. Not treating the growth hormone farms fairly. Okay. Well, let me tell you, that was interesting, right? You just really got to watch what you eat, especially if you're in the U.S., right? That goes for anywhere, though. Just be careful what you eat. Got to do your research because, unfortunately, it's not something that's easily, like, massively taught, right? You kind of got to do your own teaching on this kind of thing. And your body's your temple, right? You got to try and keep it healthy. Of course, you can enjoy different foods, but do everything in moderation if they're not the best foods. And just be careful and be aware of what you're putting in your body. Luckily for me, a lot of those didn't apply. I don't eat fish. I rarely ever have beef. And when I do, I try to buy the best option out there. I mean, you can criticize it to the moon, even if it's, totally fresh, organic, this and that. I'm sure there's something wrong with it, right? If it's from the U.S., according to a lot of people. But no, I a lot of these, I don't eat Skittles. I don't drink Mountain Dew, so I don't drink milk. I don't know. A lot of these aren't terribly alarming for me, I guess, but I know everyone's different. It is bizarre, right? Some of these aren't too dangerous. Just don't eat them. I mean, honestly, right? You don't have to have Skittles. Just probably stay away from them. But yeah, a couple of them are questionable. It makes you wonder, like, come on, U.S., like, especially the bread one, like, why are you doing that? But I think there's a lot of awesome food in the beautiful United States. I think there's a lot of awesome food worldwide. That's kind of what makes the world go round, right? So leave your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions down below in the comments. I do appreciate that. And leave a like on this video if you learned something new and enjoyed it. I do appreciate that as well. Subscribe to join our amazing community on here and check that description out for this original video. And otherwise, you can interact with me. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, guys. Catch you later.